I'd love for you to give just a high-level overview of the different phases. I think there's 8 phases. They all start with A, of the employee experience. You do an amazing job of this. It was Jim Quick who talks about like just memorizing concepts. And I don't know if you took a page from that, but just every time I read 8 tools, 8 resources, they all start with the same letter. It's very easy to remember. If you could speak to some of those.
Well, I appreciate that, Michael. Yeah, Jim's an absolute rock star when it comes to learning and memorizing things. The reason all of them start with A is because I want employers to kind of think that if you get each of these phases right, it's like getting straight A's on your report card. Your employees are feeling that you're firing on all cylinders and you're delivering across the entire experience. So we start with phase 1, the assess phase. This is when a prospective employee is trying to decide whether or not they want to come work for you. They're looking at your job description, your one ad, your classified ad. They're getting a feel for the position and role. They're probably going on the careers page or the About Us page on your website to get a feel for, well, what kind of people do you employ and what's the culture like in your organization? In this day and age, they're probably checking to see if they know anyone on LinkedIn that already works at your organization that they can get some inside scoop about. And then they're going through your hiring process, whether that's submitting an application, submitting a resume, filling out a form, letting you know that they're interested in the position, and then going through whatever your hiring process is as far as submitting videos, submitting portfolios, doing interviews, all of the things that are leading up to a decision on whether or not they're the right fit for your organization, which brings us to phase 2, the accept phase. In the accept phase, 2 interesting things happen. The employer says, this is the person I want, and they extend an offer. And if we're lucky, that candidate accepts the offer. They transition from being a prospective employee to being an actual employee. We then come to phase 3, Michael, which this is a phase that most business owners, to be frank, don't spend any time thinking about. We've all probably heard of the concept buyer's remorse. Phase 3 in an employee context, the Affirm phase, is new hires remorse. The scientifically proven fact that immediately after accepting a job offer, a new employee begins to doubt the decision they just made. I mean, it literally happens in the seconds after they sign their offer letter. Why is this? Well, a couple of things happen. Number one, the dopamine release that comes with getting the offer, that excitement, that joy, that euphoria starts to fade along with dopamine receding from the brain. And now they feel fear and doubt and uncertainty about the choice they just made. Should I have negotiated for a better deal? You know, they said this is all they could offer and this are the usual benefits, but if I would have pushed more, could I have gotten more? It's also the case that top talent is probably interviewing at a lot of different places at the same time. And so when they accept your job offer, there are probably outstanding interviews they've done that haven't resulted in an offer yet. And they're wondering, well, if I wait a little longer, is that the one that would have been the better thing? And so that fear and doubt and uncertainty that they're feeling is usually matched by what from the employer? Oh, that'd be very little communication. We've said, hey, we've got the job offer. Great. We want you to start 3 weeks from now on Wednesday. There's no other communication happening. So in that affirm stage, we need to affirm their choice to work with us. We then come to phase 4, the activate stage. Now, this is the first official day on the job when they show up for work. And the secret here is to keep in mind the immortal words of country music legend Bonnie Raitt. Give them something to talk about. What are you going to do to create an experience that is so remarkable that when they get home that night after their first day at work, whether that's to a spouse, their kids, their significant other, their parents, a roommate, when that loved one asks them, how was it? What was the first day like? You want them to have stories to tell. You want them to have things that they're excited about. What's fascinating is 74% of employees say that their experience on the first day determines whether they will stay for a month or not. 74%. These are shocking. And it all boils down to that one day. We then come to phase 5, the acclimate phase. Now, what's interesting, Michael, in the acclimate phase is this starts with the second day on the job and lasts for weeks, even months, depending on the role and the position. In almost every organization on the planet, there's someone who's responsible for the first day on the job. When I go to those same organizations and I say, great, who's responsible for the second day on the job? It's like cue the tumbleweed, crickets. No one's responsible for that. So what are you doing to help acclimate those folks to this new role, their responsibilities, the relationships they're going to have in the organization? And how are we building that over time instead of trying to fire hose them all in the first day? After they acclimate, ideally we come to phase 6, accomplish, where the employee achieves the goal they had when they originally decided to work for you. See, every employee has a vision of what they're hoping to accomplish. But as employers, are we tracking that? Are we paying attention to that? Are we marking their progress and calling out the milestones that they achieve? Probably not as much as we could. We then come to phase 7, the adopt phase. This is when the employee becomes loyal to you and only you. Most people listening to this podcast or watching this show will realize that they have some employees that are adopters. They're loyal, they're committed. What have you done to tell them that you recognize their commitment? What have you done to show them the appreciation for their loyalty and commitment? It's not enough to just keep paying their check. And last but not least, we finally come to phase 8, the advocate phase, right? This is when the employee becomes a raving fan singing your praises far and wide. Few key things to look at in the advocate phase. Number 1, how many of your employees are unprompted going on and writing reviews on Glassdoor? Are they writing them because they're excited, or are they writing them because you asked them to write them? Number 2, how many of your employees are referring new people to you? Lots of times when I work with my consulting clients, they'll say, our employees are all advocates. I'm like, great. Let's look at the last time you had an open position. How many of the candidates you interviewed came from internal referrals versus your marketing and promotion efforts? Cue tumbleweed again. They're like, oh, well, only 1 or 2, but that's maybe because, well, it's probably because you actually don't have advocates, or the advocate didn't even know you were hiring. A huge percentage of employees say they don't even know what positions their employer is currently hiring for. This is low-hanging fruit for any organization. The last thing I'll say when it comes to advocates is advocates aren't just limited to your W-2 employees. Advocates can be anyone who ever worked for your organization. And the best thing you can do as an employer is to make your offboarding when an employee leaves as remarkable as the onboarding was when they came in. So many employers, it's like, oh, you're leaving? Let me throw a match and burn that bridge. You're dead to me. I never want to talk to you again. And it's like, why not have that person as an advocate in the marketplace who, when asked, hey, where's a great place to work? Or I'm thinking about applying at this place, they go, oh my gosh, that was the best place I ever worked. They're amazing there. You should totally apply. If we get these 8 phases right, we get increased productivity, increased engagement, and the type of retention that most employers are looking for.